Persia, the birthplace of the Aryan people, is a shadow of its former glory. A wounded lion on its last feet in a world torn apart by the twin forces of the radical futurist and socialist ideologies. Like vultures circling overhead, a wounded animal are the empires of the British and the Russians. For the past century, both have hoped to carve a piece out of Persia for themselves. The British have forced us into a series of unequal treaties, including an agreement that imposed the Anglo-Persian Oil Company on our lands. A parasite that leeches of our resources, keeping all the profits for themselves and leaving us with scraps. Then came the Great War. It has been less than 2 decades since it was waged across Europe and Asia, yet the repercussions of the devastating conflict continue to plague our imperial state, like scars that do not heal. Amidst the chaos, Russian forces had taken advantage of Persia in her moment of weakness, overrunning our frontier regions in the Caucasus, stealing our territory when we were powerless to stop it. As if all these troubles were not enough, some ethnic minorities within our borders, such as the Azeris, seek to rise up, separate themselves from Persia, and establish independent states of their own. One more matter for our tiresome military that is already stretched thin to keep in check. Be it civil servants in the government, officers in the army, or the common man on the streets. Many within Persia mourn the century of humiliation these 2 empires have forced upon Persia, and all wish to see the country saved, so that it may stand proudly once more. All agree that the country must reform, but none can agree how. Loyalist army officers and monarchists have placed their hopes on Mohammed Reza Pahlavi, the ambitious crown prince who has grand plans to rapidly modernize Persia so that it may be an equal to the Western powers. Simultaneously, there are also Republican ideologues who desire removing the House of Pahlavi from power and install a democratic republic in its place. These are indeed no more than foolish delusions that equate to treason, yet they are the least of our concerns. On the streets of Tehran, the oil fields in Ilam, and the ports of Bandar Abbas are whispers spoken by treasonous tongues that spread the beliefs of socialism. The Red Menace haunts the land of the Aryans like a spectre, and we must prepare ourselves for the worst. In the meantime, it is His Majesty Reza Pahlavi, the ruling Shah of Persia, who must govern this fragile country. He is an old man, so it is no surprise that some of his actions show how his mind continues to cling to the past, such as renewing the unfair treaty with the British that grants the Anglo-Persian Oil Company monopoly over our resources. Though it should not be entirely surprising that the Shah would pursue a course of action that favors the British. He has them to thank for helping him wrestle the throne from the hands of the weak Qajar dynasty, after ousting them from power in the 1921 coup, allowing the Pahlavis to rise to power. Luckily, the weakness shown to the British is not replicated in our approach to internal affairs. Our security forces will crack down on the rebellious Azeris who dream of independent Azerbaijan, reminding them that our patience for their behavior has its limits. A similar treatment awaits defiant, ethnically non-Persian laborers in our western oil fields who are on strike in a blatant display of disobedience. With these affairs sorted, we can finally set our sights to the future. Surely there won't be anything in the way of that. A trivial dispute over the price of an onion in some marketplace in Ilam has snowballed into mass riots, which our security forces have failed to put down. Seeing this as an opportunity, the socialists have called upon their followers to rise up for a revolution to overthrow the Shah and install a dictatorship of the proletariat. Even some officers in the army, which we have foolishly told to be loyal, have committed the ultimate betrayal and sided with the socialists. Persia is in crisis. The land of the Aryans is in its dire hours, while the flames of civil war have engulfed the country. But all hope is not lost. In fact, this crisis is what will unite us as one as we rally behind the throne of the Pahlavi dynasty, the only hope for a stable and strong Persia. It is the Shah to whom we have pledged our allegiance and who shall lead us to glorious victory. And let us not forget that the British have a stake in our victory. If they want to secure their investments in our country, then they must chip in as well. And so, our requests for reinforcements have been granted, and Anglo-Persian oil company mercenaries have been brought in to help us quell the socialist uprising. There was a time that these revolutionaries seriously threatened to take Tehran and imperil the Pahlavi throne. Now their element of surprise is gone, their numbers diminishing, and their forces on the retreat. How the tables have turned. We did not even need to retake Bandar Abbas, stronghold of the socialist rebels, and they had surrendered already. As we clear the rubble, repair the carnage, and punish the traitors, we may be proud that Persia still stands. Yet one thing has been made abundantly clear in the aftermath of the civil war. Persia must reform as soon as possible. It is clear that the old Shah was unfit to continue ruling. A ruined Persia was evidence of that. He shall step down, so that another may take his place. Although the moderate Republicans, who did not take up arms against the royalist government during the civil war, thought this might be an opportunity to dethrone the Pahlavis and install their beloved democracy, this dream had been shattered once Crown Prince Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was coronated as the new Shah, following his father's abdication. His first order of business was to reinstate a national council, allowing the people to voice their concerns and ideas regarding governance. Of course, this did not mean that everyone had a say. Some voices are more equal than other voices. While this may not be especially popular, through the founding of SAVAK, our state intelligence agency, we will be able to keep dissidents in check and protect the absolute powers of the Shah and his loyalists from our enemies, be they foreign or domestic. What will be widely popular, however, is the Shah's decision to remove all British influence from our country. For far too long have the British leeched off Persia. Now we shall rid ourselves from these parasites, disallow British troops from entering our lands, and nationalize the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, so that it may solely serve the interests of the Persian people. And no longer will we go by the name Persia, an exonym foreigners have imposed upon us. We are Iran, the imperial state of Iran, populated by Iranians and led by an Iranian Shah. With this out of the way, now is the time for commencing the White Revolution, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi's ambitious plans to rapidly modernize Iran. Women's rights will be advanced, their rights and status in society equal to that of men, so that all are uplifted and able to contribute to the nation. If Iran is to move forward, it must embrace secularization, lest we allow ourselves to be led by backward superstitions and power-hungry clerics who prefer us to live in the past. Simultaneously, investing in grand infrastructure projects funded by our rich oil reserves will help industrialize Iran, leading to great prosperity. This endeavor will also assist in expanding our military capabilities, increasing the production capacity of our arms industry, and expanding the size of our army. With our internal affairs sorted, the time has come to secure Iran's interests abroad. In antiquity, our forefathers referred to the country that is now called Afghanistan as Khorasan. It was a province part of the Persian empires of the past, so it is only appropriate that we set out to conquer Afghanistan and reincorporate it as Khorasan. It will be a swift victory that will solidify that the century of humiliation is over, and that Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi will herald an age of glory, the age of the Arya mare. With our eastern borders secured, we turn our sights to the west. At the coast of the Mediterranean lies Zion, homeland of the Jewish people once more. In the ancient past, our nations were allies with one another, so it is only natural that we unite under a covenant in this chaotic world. Our newest allies are at war with their northern neighbors, the Lebanese, so the arrival of Iranian troops to push forward across the narrow front lines, end the stalemate and ensure victory was readily welcomed. But we cannot let our guards down, as conflict with Syria looms over the horizon. Tensions between Syria and Zion over land disputes will be its cause. We have a piece of territory that we desire to carve out of Syria as well, so we will gladly follow Zion in the war against Syria. The Syrians may have had more divisions than the Lebanese, but were still no match for the combined forces of the Arabian. After penetrating their lines, encircling a few divisions along the way, and capturing Damascus, the collapse of Syria was imminent. With the fall of Lebanon and Syria, our influence across the Middle East had rapidly expanded. Iran was first a backwater and is now a proper middle power that is not to be trifled with. We could now focus on challenging British hegemony in the region and, in its stead, establishing Iran's dominance both the Persian Gulf and West Asia as a whole. While we had been busy in Lebanon and Syria, Europe and Asia had descended into a second Great War after futurist radicals grabbed power in Germany and France. The United Kingdom and Russia formed a coalition in this total war against the scourge that threatened their supremacy and way of life. Although victorious, the United Kingdom was utterly spent. With rising costs and a war-weary populace, managing a vast colonial empire proved to be impossible in the aftermath of the Second Great War, and we will help in taking the first steps to dismantle their empire. Sandwiched between Iran proper and our puppet regime of Syria lies the rash mandate of Iraq, the first of our targets. We pressured the British to withdraw from Iraq, first demanding them to hand over the oil-rich and strategic lands of Kuwait. Although hesitant at first, British pride impeding them from acknowledging the harsh reality of the post-war world, they would eventually cave into our demands. The withdrawal from Iraq left Mesopotamia ripe for the taking. A two-front war would be impossible for newly independent Iraq to wage, who had been so rapidly banned by the British overlords. So it was inevitable for our troops to steamroll through the Iraqis, capturing Baghdad and Kuwait with relative ease. The fall of Iraq meant its complete annexation into the imperial state of Iran. Across the Persian Gulf lie footholds of the British along the eastern strip of the Arabian Peninsula, Bahrain, Qatar and Dubai. These allowed the British a stranglehold over shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz, completely unacceptable. That privilege belongs to Iran, and Iran only. Unlike with the Iraqi crisis not long ago, the British caved nearly immediately after our show of force to take these lands through violent means. What was thought to be impossible in the past, the Shah has made reality today. The Persian Gulf is once more under complete control of Iran. From Mesopotamia in the west to Khorasan in the east, from the mountains of the Caucasus in the north to the shores of the Arabian Peninsula in the south, Iran stands proudly over its new empire. The imperial state of Iran, the empire of the Lion and the Sun, has re-emerged, vanquished its opponents and reasserted dominance of the Middle East. It is thanks to the tireless efforts of our Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, that the light of the Aryans shines so brightly across these desert plains and mountain plateaus. Long live the Shah, and may God bless his soul.